What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Must start and avoid running backs for week 11. I'll be taking a look at each game this week, going over the backfield situation for each team. As always, if I don't answer your specific question, just check out my exact rankings at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. All right, week 11, video goes up Friday, so the Steelers and Browns have already played, and we're back to 4 teams on bye this week: Tennessee, Seattle, the Giants, and the Packers. So let's start things off with Falcons at Panthers. The game currently has a 49-point total, and the Panthers are 6.5-point home favorites. On the Falcons side, Freeman's going to be out. We already know that Ito Smith is out for the season, so we should see featured back Brian Hill for the time being. Don't know exactly how many weeks Freeman's going to miss, but at least for this week, we've got featured back Brian Hill. And since the Panthers are the last ranked rush defense DVOA and 29th in yards per carry allowed, Hill should be viewed as a mid to high end running back 2 this week. And on the Panthers side, we of course know we're always starting Christian McCaffrey. Cowboys at Lions is next, and this game does not have a total yet. Obviously, we're waiting on news if Stafford's going to play, and since that will definitely impact the total, no one's going to release a line for that. We have seen a line of 3.5 points in favor of Dallas, but again, that's also going to change depending on if Stafford plays. On the Dallas side, doesn't matter if Stafford plays, we're always starting Zeke, especially against the below-average Lions defense. On the Lions side, we know Kerryon Johnson's out. We know Ty Johnson has a concussion. Don't know if he'll be out because we have to just see, will he pass the concussion protocol. Not looking like he's going to play, but we'll have to wait and see. And then J.D. McKissic should be the featured back if both of those guys are out. Now, that might sound great for him. You know, you're getting a featured back, but it's J.D. McKissic. He's not going to do all that much on the ground, and his role is not going to change all that much even if Ty Johnson is out. I mean, Ty Johnson had 5 carries last week and 9 the week before, so it's really only so much more that McKissic can get. We should probably expect, if Ty Johnson misses, like 10 to 12 carries and, I don't know, 5 to 7 targets for McKissic. Remember, this is not going to be a great offense if Stafford is out. Now, if Stafford comes back, we can bump the target projection a little bit, but he's still going to be a very touchdown-dependent play, and his touchdown projection isn't all that high. So he gets a boost if Stafford is available to play, and he gets a bump down if Stafford is out, but regardless, that's a bump up and bump down of a flex play. So either way, it's either a high-end flex or a low-end flex, but he's still a flex play and much better in full PPR leagues than if he would a half point, and I probably wouldn't even consider him in standard. Bills at Dolphins is the next game, and this one has a 41-point total with the Bills 6.5-point road favorites. On the Bills side, Singletary continues to play about 2/3 of snaps, with Gore getting the other third. Miami ranks 31st in rush defense DVOA and 30th in yards per carry allowed, plus the Bills are favorites. So this sets up really nicely for both running backs. The most likely scenario here is that Gore gets his like 12 carries, probably 1 target, and Singletary sees more like 14 to 16 carries with a bit of work in the receiving game. The Bills are projected to score 23 to 24 points, and so it's likely that one of these guys finds the end zone. Because of that, I'd view Gore as more of a desperation flex play if you've got some guys that are injured or on bye, and then Singletary as a solid running back 2. For the Dolphins, the best way to attack the Bills is on the ground. They haven't allowed a 100-yard receiver yet this season, but they've been gashed a few times on the ground. The problem for the Dolphins is that they can't run the football anyways, and Ballage is terrible. So he's still a flex option since he got 24 touches last week. Just don't be shocked if he turns 23 to 25 touches into 50 total scoreless yards. Texans at Ravens is next, and this game has a 50-point total, and the Ravens are 4-point home favorites. For the Texans, The Ravens have an above average run defense in terms of yards per carry, but they're by no means elite. They're good, but not fantastic. Hyde is a touchdown dependent flex play. He has 1 reception over his last 5 games, so the floor is too low for him to be considered a running back 2, especially in a game that they're projected to lose. Duke Johnson, though, has seen 5 targets in 3 straight games and has 3 touchdowns in his last 4. I still don't feel comfortable using him, but if you want to play him in the flex in a full PPR league, I would be fine with that. It's more of a thin play in half PPR and standard, though. For the Ravens, it's the same as always. The only running back you can trust is Ingram, but he's still a touchdown-dependent running back 2. Broncos at Vikings is next, and this game has a 40-point over-under, and the Vikings are currently 10.5-point home favorites. That means that the Broncos are projected to score about 15 points. For the Broncos, this is an absolutely terrible matchup. They're massive road dogs, projected to score 1 touchdown and a few field goals, playing an elite run defense with a backup quarterback, and they're splitting snaps. I wouldn't feel good about either of these running backs this week. If you need to play one of them, then Lindsey has been the better of the 2, and he's the most likely of the 2 to break off a long run. But I really don't trust either this week. For the Vikings, always play Dalvin Cook, even in one of the most difficult matchups for running back. Jets at Washington is next, and this game has the lowest total of the week at just 38.5 points, and Washington is just 1.5 point home favorites. For the Jets, Bell continues to be heavily involved, but he also continues to be highly inefficient with his touches. Washington is not a good run defense, allowing the 28th most yards per carry, and Bell is going to get enough volume to always be viable. So the Jets are really bad, and their scoring opportunities aren't that great. Again, the lowest total of the week, and they're the underdogs, but they're using Bell a ton, and he's the most likely to score a touchdown, so you can still play him. I have him ranked as a low-end running back 1. I'd feel much better if he was my running back 2. On the Washington side, the Jets are not a team to attack on the ground. The problem is that Bill Callahan is an idiot. So he'll probably just run Peterson and Geis into a brick wall 30 times, which is why this game has the lowest total of the week. Geis should return, but they're going to ease him in, so I wouldn't even play him if he's active. I'd also bench Peterson, and I'd bench Thompson even if he plays. There really aren't that many touchdowns that are going to go around in this game, and there won't be very many yards to go around in the game as well. So if you're starting one of these guys, you're just praying that they get lucky with a touchdown, which is not something I prefer to do. Let's move on to a better game, though, with Saints at Bucs. This one has a 50.5 point total, with the Saints currently 5.5 point road favorites. For the Saints, as we predicted last week, they split the touches between Kamara and Murray. I expect that gap to widen this week, but still be a relative timeshare. The Bucs are the most difficult matchup for running back. They rank first in rush defense DVOA, first in yards per carry allowed. Kamara still needs to be started everywhere. Just obviously temper expectations whenever you have a running back playing the Bucs. Murray is really only viable in deeper formats, only had the 7 touches last week, and that's probably a good projection for him again this week, again in a brutal matchup. So definitely do not want to start him in a 10 or a 12-team league. On the Bucs side, Ronald Jones is still only seeing about half the snaps, but he's had 20 and 19 touches in back-to-back weeks, and they finally decided to use him in the receiving game last week, where he caught all 8 targets for 77 yards. He's been the team's best running back all season. They've just refused to use him. But like I always say, never assume that bad teams will all of a sudden start making intelligent decisions. There's a reason they're bad. So while they should shift more work over to Jones, I don't trust that they will. So this game has letdown written all over it for Ronald Jones. I still think he's a low end 2 to a flex play because he's got 20 touch potential, but do not be shocked if they all of a sudden are like, wow, that worked last week. Let's do the opposite of what's logical and give Peyton Barber a ton more touches. And also remember that the Saints are a much better defense than the Cardinals. So low end 2 to flex. Next, we have Jaguars at Colts, and this one has a 43.5 point total, and the Colts are 3-point home favorites. For the Jaguars, the Colts have a solid run defense, but Leonard Fournette gets enough volume to be a running back 1 in any matchup. And one of these days, he's going to find the end zone. For the Colts, Mac has a difficult matchup, and he's not getting the same amount of volume that Fournette gets, but he's a home favorite, and his combination of talent and volume and matchup still makes him a low-end running back 1 this week, especially with Brissett expected to return. Cardinals at 49ers is next, and this game has a 45-point total, with the 49ers opening as 13.5 point favorites, but that was quickly bet down to 9.5 points. On the Arizona side, we have a complete mess. Chase Edmonds is still out with the hamstring injury, but David Johnson should be closer to 100% now. He was up to 43% of snaps last week, and he wasn't listed on the injury report on Wednesday. Kingsbury has not been honest with injuries this season, so take anything he says with a grain of salt, but I'd expect it to be a roughly 50-50 split this week. But at the end of the day, no one knows what's going to happen, so if someone tells you they do know, they're lying. Even given Drake's success against the 49ers 2 weeks ago, this is still a brutal matchup, and they're 9.5 point road underdogs, facing a very above average defense. So I have both him and Johnson ranked as flex plays this week. For the 49ers, Breida is expected to miss, so we'll likely see Coleman and Mostert as the lead backs. Arizona isn't a great defense, and Coleman has the red zone role on lockdown, so he should be viewed as a running back 1 this week, with Mostert being more of a flex option. Next, we have Bengals at Raiders. This game has a 49-point total, with the Raiders currently 10.5 point home favorites. For the Bengals, Mixon had 32 touches in their 36-point loss last week. The Bengals had no intention of winning that game, so they were content just continuing their conservative game plan and losing by however many points they lost by. They're in full-on tank mode at this point, so there's gonna be elevated amounts of risk when playing Bengals players. Like I said in the video earlier this week, I don't see them running Mixon into the ground to end the season. It makes no sense for them to continue to do that. So I do not expect him to see another 32 touches this week. And the Raiders are much better at stopping the rush than they are the pass. Because of that, I view Mixon as more of a flex play this week. On the Raiders side, Josh Jacobs has proven to be a weekly running back 1, especially against one of the worst run defenses in the league. As a 10.5 point home favorite, I have him ranked as the running back 4 overall. Patriots at Eagles is next. The total has been bet down to 44.5 points, and the Patriots are 3.5 point road favorites. On the Patriots side, the Eagles rank 6th in rush defense DVOA and 4th in yards per carry allowed to running backs. This does not set up like a Sony Michel game, but given his massive red zone role, he could certainly fall into the end zone a few times. He's just more of a touchdown dependent flex play though, especially given his 0 target projection. Rex Burkhead should be fully healthy following the bye, so you could use him in the flex in like a 16 team league, but other than that, I'd keep him on the bench. But the best option this week is James White. He's a running back 2, given his consistency in his passing game usage. The Eagles are one of the bigger pass funnels in the league, so that sets up well for White to see closer to 50% of snaps instead of the mid-30s when they crush teams on the ground. For the Eagles, the Patriots are much better against the pass than they are the run. They're elite against both, but I'd expect the Eagles to come out and try to run the ball early in the game. That's a plus for Jordan Howard, who's seen 23 and 19 carries in back-to-back weeks. Given the matchup and the fact that he's only been over 15 receiving yards once all season, he is a touchdown-dependent flex play against a defense that's allowed just one total touchdown to a running back this season. Miles Sanders is the exact same thing, a touchdown-dependent flex play. He has at least 3 receptions in 5 straight, and the projected game script has the Eagles trailing, which would favor Sanders over Howard. But again, even with the receiving volume, he's not getting as much total work as Howard, so he's going to need a touchdown to pay off as well. The Sunday night game is Bears at Rams, and this one has a 40-point total with the Rams 6.5-point home favorites. For the Bears, David Montgomery has at least 60% of snaps in 3 consecutive games now, with touch totals of 31, 17, and 17 in those games. The Rams are an elite run defense, but the volume expectation makes Montgomery a weekly running back 2 at worst. For the Rams, Gurley continues to see his touches capped, and he continues to be much less efficient than he used to be, with just 1 reception over his last 3 weeks. Hopefully you didn't draft him. Hopefully you traded him. If you did draft him, he's a running back too, but not one that I feel good about. Neither running back behind him can be trusted. They're both kind of splitting the workload behind him now that they're both healthy, and so you can't really start a guy getting 5 to 7 touches a week. The final game of the week is Monday Night Football featuring the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Chargers. This game has the highest total of the week at 52 points, and Kansas City currently sits as 4-point road favorites. On the Kansas City side, LaShawn McCoy was a healthy scratch last week, which resulted in Damian Williams getting 73% of the snaps once again and turning his 24 touches into 109 yards. They said that McCoy was held out as a predetermined rest game, so we'll have to see what the reports are this week on the situation. If he plays, it's obviously going to hurt Williams' upside, but if he's out again, then Williams is a running back 1. I assume that we'll know if McCoy is active before Monday, but if we don't know, I think you just have to put him in your lineups and hope that McCoy's out. If we do know, even if he plays, I still think I'd be starting Damian Williams, and I would not be starting McCoy regardless. On the Chargers side, Kansas City ranks 30th in rush defense DVOA and 31st in yards per carry allowed, so this is one of the best matchups possible for a running back, especially in the highest total game of the week. Melvin Gordon has been very inefficient, but he's getting a ton of touches, and he is looking a little bit better every week. So he is a running back 1 in this matchup. Eckler was fantastic to start the season, but his snaps and touches have taken a big hit since Gordon has returned. He is a running back 2 this week because of the matchup, but his upside is capped because they're only giving him 10 to 12 touches a week. So that should be everything you need answered at the running back position for week 11. If your question was not answered in this video, then just look at my rankings at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. But that's the end of this one. I hope you all did enjoy. If you did, how about hitting that like button? And if you're new here, how about subscribing to the channel? But thanks for watching.